He's one of those titans of finance, a guy who literally built the world's largest hedge fund right out of his apartment. I'm talking about Ray Dalio. But here's the question. Is he a visionary genius or a controlling tyrant? That's the paradox we're going to unpack today.
And this, right here, is the heart of the whole thing. On one side, you've got Dalio's famous vision, his idea meritocracy, right? It's this beautiful concept of a workplace where radical honesty means the best ideas always rise to the top. But then, you have the other side, the one described in the book The Fund, which paints a picture of a toxic culture full of paranoia. So, which one is the real Bridgewater?
To really get to the bottom of this conflict, we've got to start with the official story. The powerful narrative that Ray Dalio and Bridgewater spent decades building.
Dalio's story is a total Wall Street classic. He starts up in 1975, but the real turning point, the moment that changed everything, was in '82. He made this huge bet on the economy that went disastrously wrong and almost wiped him out. It was that failure that pushed him to create his famous principles, basically a system to take ego and emotion out of his decisions. And man, from that absolute low point, his rise was just meteoric.
So at the very core of Dalio's whole philosophy is this idea meritocracy. The concept is pretty simple. Get rid of office politics and gut feelings. And how do you do that? Through two key things. Radical truthfulness, which means you say exactly what you think, and radical transparency, which means pretty much everything is recorded and open for everyone to see. The whole goal is just pure, unfiltered honesty.
And this quote, it just perfectly sums up the spirit of his principles. Every mistake, every bit of pain is actually an opportunity. If you can stop and reflect on it honestly, you can learn from it, create a new rule, a new principle, and make sure you never make that same mistake again. It's all about turning failure into a repeatable system for success.
Okay, but then there's the counter-narrative. A completely different story comes out of this exposé, The Fund, by journalist Rob Copeland. And it paints a picture of a workplace that sounds almost Orwellian, where the very tools meant to create honesty actually became tools of control.
So, according to Copeland, these tools of transparency were basically weaponized. Just try to imagine working in a place where all your strengths and weaknesses are put on a baseball card for everyone to see, where it's not just your meetings being recorded, but your keystrokes, where an app lets your coworkers rate you in real time, and any mistake you make gets dissected in these public meetings called probes that felt a lot like public shaming.
And this is where that vision and the alleged reality just completely split apart. The believability rating, which was supposed to make sure the best ideas won, was supposedly rigged to always favor Dalio. The probes, meant to be objective learning sessions, were allegedly used for public humiliation. And radical transparency, well, that morphed into what some felt was an invasive system of total surveillance. This culture was apparently so intense that it created this revolving door of top-tier executives. I mean, think about this. Even the former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, a guy you'd think is used to high-pressure jobs, couldn't hack it there. That tells you just how extreme the Bridgewater culture really was. Now, this clash between the shiny vision and the messy reality, it doesn't just stop with the company culture. It goes right to the very heart of Bridgewater's success, its legendary investment machine. Is it this cold, emotionless, data-driven system, or is it really just a reflection of one man's gut feelings?
$150 billion. That's the mountain of cash Bridgewater was managing at its peak. And it was all built on an investment philosophy that was designed to be, well, indestructible.
The secret sauce here is their all-weather fund. The idea is simple, but it's pretty brilliant. The economy basically has 4 seasons, right? Defined by whether growth and inflation are rising or falling. The fund is built to do well in any of those seasons, so you're always ready no matter what the market decides to do.
And this quote, this illustrates the core idea perfectly. Dalio called this his holy grail of investing. See, real diversification isn't just about owning a bunch of different stocks. It's about owning different things that zig and zag at different times, balancing each other out. If you can find 15 or 20 of those, you can slash your risk way down without really hurting your expected returns. It's genius.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? Here's another crack in the official story. Bridgewater always claimed its trading was 99% systematic. All algorithms, all data, no emotion. But critics allege that Dalio himself personally controlled up to 10% of the assets, trading on his own gut instinct with absolutely no one looking over his shoulder. So much for that impersonal machine.
And here's the ultimate irony. and a company that was supposedly built on radical transparency. The most critical piece of information, the investment strategy itself, was a secret, locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Out of 1,300 employees, only a tiny handful of insiders, we're talking maybe 10 people, actually knew what was going on.
Okay, so let's try to pull this all together in our final section and see how this all adds up to a very complex and deeply contested modern legacy.
47 years, for nearly half a century, Ray Dalio built a machine in his own image. And that machine produced an insane amount of wealth, a whole army of followers, and a fiercely debated culture that, to this day, both fascinates and horrifies Wall Street.
So in 2022, Dalio finally stepped down. He passed the torch to a new generation. And while he's now focused on spreading his principles to the rest of the world, you got to ask the question, can the machine he built really run without him, or is his shadow still pulling all the strings? In the end, the story of Ray Dalio really forces us to wrestle with a tough question. Where exactly is the line between a visionary and a tyrant? Between a guiding principle and a rigid dogma? It's a question that gets right to the heart of power, success, and the very nature of leadership itself.